let's go to our development environment. Let me grab my VS Code. So this was just an app I was testing. It looks really ugly, but it was just a way for me to kind of make sure everything was working properly before the class. And so what I would like to do for today is that I'm going to make this bigger. So I was testing the chat page, just basic code, make sure it runs okay. But right now I would like to just start some basic exercises for this week. And we are going to start with some, basic components for flex and styles. Okay, and so the we are going to just replicate an app. Okay, so what I would like to do is to use again cd to your import 670 apps, and where you create all these different exercises or applications, and then let's create another expo app, right? And I'm going to call this. Is it big enough for you to see? Okay, yeah, it's not. Make it bigger. But of course, when you make bigger, it can also give me less space. Okay, so I'm going to call it with 3 exercises. Okay, and then it create the app. And there are also a couple of things I would like to kind of emphasize here. Okay, so again, when you create the app and when you try to run the app and test it in the development mode, you should have the emulator. And as I said, we're going to use Android emulator during most of my demos and exercises, because that is the tool that we all use. Okay, so this is part of the Android Studio. Okay, and those of you who may have missed class for online, let me just rerun this process. Okay, make sure everyone is on the same page. So this is the Android Studio. I believe I can configure my Mac so be able to zoom in. Okay. So, and the Android Studio, this is for everyone, including the online students, to see that on Android Studio, the virtual device manager is where the emulators are hosted. Okay, and then on the device manager, there are a couple of things. Okay, when you have not run the emulator yet, this will become a button to play or execute and to run. Now, I also want to show a couple of options here, because sometimes when you get into trouble and issues, this may help you, right? So you start the emulator, and then from the expo side, we're going to run the app, and then we can open the emulator, right, and load the app into the emulator to run there. We can also reload, right? So with A, you can open Android from there. With R, you can reload. And then, but sometimes, especially when you are switching between apps, an expo may not catch up. And sometimes I think that if it catch, I'm still getting to know the behavior of expo. Okay, and so sometimes it just doesn't have your latest code, or try to load your latest app, and it's kind of loading and loading and loading there. So a couple of ways to get out of that situation. One is that you can, ultimately, okay, this white data will work for sure, okay? If like, okay, you are running something previously and now you cannot run your new app, it's giving you trouble, there may be corrupted data on that device, okay? And so the ultimate solution is that you can click on this white data, and it's going to wipe out everything from previous installations, including the Expo app on the Android emulator, and including your own app data, everything will be wiped out, and then you can start from scratch. Okay, and so if you do this, of course, the downside is that when you run your app again, it's going to download the Expo app and start everything again. So it's going to take maybe a couple of more minutes just to be able to get it done. So that is one. Okay. And then the other is that you can certainly shut down this device and restart. Okay, that can perhaps can address some of the issues that you're having. Okay, but the white data is your last resort. Okay, so with that, I'm sure at this point that my app has been created. Okay, so and so let's go into. So let's double check. So the exercise is here. Okay, and so this app.js is what I currently have. The code that has been created by Expo. Okay, and just to test it, let's run npx. Again, we need to cd into that directory. Right? So again, you're going to have a rhythm of getting into that directory. So cd into weekly exercise. And then we are going to run npx expo start, right, to start the whole process. Right? If it starts and doesn't give you anything, okay, perhaps the menu has passed, you can always press shift question mark, okay, to show you the menu. Okay, so hit question mark, of course, you need to shift question mark to show you the basic menu. Right? And so it says A to open Android. Okay, so we are going to press A, and hopefully that will show you the Android. And so again, we see that right now it's refusing to reload my data. I can try a couple of things. Right? I can re-enter this process, and then press back to the terminal. Press A again. It doesn't really reload. It continues to show me the previous app. So what I'm going to do is to use the kind of the last resort to wipe the data. Okay, I'm not sure if there's a better way, I hope, but this is a way that really works for me, just to start from scratch. So let me wipe the data, and I mean, usually when you continue to just test the same app, it should not give you the trouble. And I think part of it is because we're using Expo, not the React Native environment, so sometimes it's not refreshed. So right now, I have wiped out data on that emulator. So I'm going to restart the emulator. Of course, I can make copies for different apps for testing. But right now, I'm just going to rely on this one emulator, wipe out data, and then restart the process. Okay. Now back here, I can just continue to leave it here, or I can just Control-C to quit the process. And then when it's loaded here, I'm going to rerun this npx expo start. Okay. So again, get into the debugger process, and then press A to open Android. Okay, so hopefully this time. And so as you can tell, right now it's installing the Expo app. Okay, so the downside of wiping the data is that the Expo app is also removed. So it has to start. Fortunately, this doesn't take too long. So now it's showing me the the app. And again, this menu automatically shows you, but in the future when you close it, remember you can use Cmd+M, okay, or Control+M on Windows to show the debug tools. Okay, this is going to be your friend when it comes to debugging and flexing. Okay, so let's continue here. For now, I'm not going to show any element in inspector yet, but later we are going to use it. Okay, so close it. For now, it's working. So right now, I would like to kind of restart this process. Okay, and so for this code, I'm going to just remove everything. And because there's also an alternative way I'm show you based on the component approach. Okay, so you see this code, and this is one way to do it, is to create a function. Okay, the add create a function, and the function becomes a default export to be shown as the add. Okay, this is one way to create a code. The alternative way, and let's do it together, is to create a component to extend the component in React. So what I'm going to do is to import React. This is obviously what you always have to import in order to use the JavaScript extension. Okay, and then because it's the default, you don't need to use curly braces to include. But then after that, you use curly braces to include the component from React. Okay, so this is React is still the React.js part to allow you to extend that component. And then we're also going to import from React.js, React Native, some of the native components. Okay, because we are going to use style sheet. Okay, let's import style sheet. We definitely will need to use view. We are going to create labels, okay, and then image, button, perhaps alert, okay. If later we need other things, that's also important, but for now it should be sufficient. Okay. So this will give us the necessary components we need, right, to create this this particular component for app. And so what I'm going to do is going to export default. Now you can create a constant and then export later, but you can export right here as the default component. And in class, and let's call it flex, because really in this exercise I would like us to focus on flex and the layout design. Also add some styles in here and button touchables. But flex design is really our focus, so I call it flex, and it extends the component. Okay, so this is, if you compare this code to what you did in previous week, there's some slight difference. Okay, instead of a function, you are defining a class. Now I have to say in JavaScript, the boundary is rather blurred. But there are some subtle implications when it comes to component versus the function. But right now, let's focus on one thing, which is we are going to render a view to use the flex layout. Okay. So as part of this component, you cannot just simply return because it's not a function. Okay. And when you extend the component, I'm not sure how familiar you are with an object-oriented programming. When you extend the components, you intend to inherit certain interface, can be variables, properties, or behavioral methods. And so one method you need to implement here is called render. Okay? And hopefully this makes sense because render is just to show this component, right? And so instead of just return, you need to call this, you need to basically implement this render interface and then say return. Okay? And of course, make sure return you have a pair of parentheses. Okay, I still need to put things inside. Right? So this corresponds to, I think it's complete. Now, last week, I was making this naive mistake without the parentheses when I tried to return view. Okay, so my brain was not working, and having worked with Python during the day, it's like, okay, I don't need the parentheses. So, but in JavaScript, right, it's always function. When you call a function like return, it has to be a pair of parentheses. And one of our students here pointed that out for me, so that fixed some of the issues that I was encountering. Okay, so thank you for that. So return, and then you want to return something, and when you return, it's really a component, right? And so the basic component is a view. So let's return a view, and we are going to add things to the view. Okay, and so for now, let's add a view, and then inside this view, we can have a couple of things, right? Perhaps a welcome message, perhaps to say your name, perhaps a couple of buttons just to showcase, what people can do, right? So I'm going to also include another view, right, as a child. So you can have this whole nested structure, right, with view inside another view, right? And then I have yet another view as a child, so I can put multiple things in here. And so in the first view, what I'm going to do is I want to just show a text message to welcome, right? So I can include a text in there and say, welcome to week 3, something like that. Right? And then in the second view, perhaps we can incorporate a couple of buttons, because later we can try some of these buttons and also different arrangement of these buttons. So the first button I'd like to include is button 1, and so let's give it a title for now, and let's worry about what the button will do later. So that's quite first, and then the other button. So again, this style, I'm not sure how familiar with it, you probably are already, but this style of, you can either close any component, right? We have an opening, and then later a view, and then at the opening, and then at the end you have /view to close it. But for those, elements or components without a content area between the opening and the closing, you can put /bracket just to close it right there at the opening. Right? This is the style of XML. Okay? There was a version of HTML, this XHTML, that followed the standard. Okay, so I think I actually quite like this standard because it makes things more flexible and really it's not confusing, because in HTML, whether you need to close it or not to close it, sometimes it's not that clear. So remember elements in HTML, like HTML5, certain elements you are not supposed to close it. Remember any of those? No? Image, right? You are not supposed to close it, right? And then method, right? You are not supposed to close it. But why do you not? Like, why can you not close it? That is kind of an interesting question, right? But anyway, with this kind of style, you always close it, but you can just close it with the selection. That's it. Right?
Well, I have a question, right? Of the export import class flex extend component, we kind of like inherit from the component class.
Exactly.
Create a new flex class.
Right.
So like the export is like exporting this whole class out of this this file.
Yeah. So export is when you put that in the app, and because app is configured in this JSON as the entry for the app. So, and this is the default, and so this is going to be the entry of your app when it's run. Okay. So that's the idea. You can do this. You can also kind of define the class or function that and then export at the end. So both is, and you have to export default in order for this to be the default to be loaded. Okay, and when it's loaded, it's going to call this render function. Okay, so this render is just part of the interface of the component that you implement in order to tell the app environment what to show first. Make sense? Okay, so right now it's just relatively simple. Right? We have two buttons, one text message. Okay, and let's just see if what we see here. So very simple, right? It's a top down, right? Because by default, everything on mobile is just top down from the column view, right? Now let's start to create things that can help us redefine the look and feel, right? Or the layout of this of the component. I also want to, I think I missed one thing. I want to also add a button here. Okay, so that, let's also add a button next to the text, because I also want to see the arrangement of the button, and we can change it. Okay, so you see that they are all in this column view. Okay. Now that's first thing I would like to change is to change the arrangement of the text and the first button to have a wall view. Okay. So what I'm going to do is that for this view, I want to use certain style code. Okay. So of course there are multiple ways to do it. Let's first try inline style. Okay, and then I'm going to convert this inline style to, actually let's go directly into the style sheet. So let's create some style. Okay, so we are going to create a styles, because there are going to be multiple things in there. And make sure we import style sheet. Okay, yes we do. So style sheet, create, and then prepare parentheses, make sure we end with a semicolon and then put a pair of curly brackets. I think when you work with JavaScript, it's always a good habit. Whether it's JavaScript or JSON, all these JavaScript related syntax. It's very important that whenever you open something, close it immediately. It's a good habit to have. Because if you don't do that, and so in VS Code, it just means you press enter, okay, or you enable the automatic completion. Okay, so always make sure the structure is complete, the syntax is good before you fill in the details. And now let's say, okay, we want to have a container, right, where we are going to use this flex design. Okay, so we can have a container with the flex design. So, and then this flex one, it's simply just to fill the space there. We can apply some padding. Okay, now if we do this, probably you're not going to see a lot. But for now, let's apply it to the first view. Okay, so I'm going to apply this style to the first view component, and where I'm going to say style equal to, and in curly braces. Okay. Now, if this is only going to be only one set of style you want to use, you can just put the container right there. But because later I want to have the possibility that I may have others, so what I usually do is just put a square bracket, okay, which means I can put multiple sets of styles in it, and then I'm to go with style.container. Okay, so that is going to for now complete the code. And if anything goes wrong and your code is not reflected, you can on the terminal you can press A again just to make sure it opens the app and shows. Okay, let's double check. So now we're not seeing the button. Let me double check. So let me say this is button, press me 2, just to make sure which one is which. Press me 3. Okay. And then load it again. And so it looks like the first, I don't see the first component anymore. Okay. So what happened to it? And so what we can do here is that, now it's a good time to use the inspector just to see what we did wrong, right? So Control or Command M to show the dev tool, and then we want to use the show element inspector. Okay. And so right now we're on the inspector tab. So we can click on each element just to show the CSS that has been applied to it. Okay. So the padding, the margin, right, the dimension. Now we can also click on here. And this looks like it's the bigger container, right? So that is the container. Let me double check. So style for container, and that should be H1. Oh, actually, I applied to the wrong one. Sorry, because I meant to put it at the top. Okay. Let me change it to the top. Okay. So this is really the big container. Okay. I meant to apply. And then hopefully it's a reflection. Right? Okay. So it reflects the change. Now I can Command M and I would like to hide the inspector. Okay. So this is still the same design. However, I can change one thing and then make it in a totally different design, which is right now flex equal to 1, and then I can change flex direction. By default, I know it's column, but right now you can change it to row. Let's take a look. Okay. So when you change it to row, right, it's going to be a horizontal direction. Because there are two views. The first view is the well-compensated button, and then the second view has two buttons, so they align and row. I hope this makes sense. But obviously, this is just something I wanted to try. I want to change it back to the default, behavior, flex direction. Okay, and now the next thing I would like to do is, so right now is this column design. Now in the first, let's say in the second, okay, in the second view, what I would like to do is to have the buttons on the same row. Okay, so we can change the view of the second container, second view, to follow the flex direction of the row, and then change the background and see what kind of view we can have. Right. So again, let's define another container. Okay, and maybe right now it's also a time for us to try the inline style. Okay, so I just want to show you for us to be comfortable with different ways to apply the styles. Okay, so if you want to apply inline style, to put styles equal to a pair of curly brackets. But then, because inline style, you are going to have a set of styles. So again, that will require another pair of curly brackets. Okay, so when you see code, like why are they two sets of curly brackets? This is really the purpose, because the first curly bracket is really for the assignment of the style, where you can have different things. You list of multiple rules, and then one of it can be inside this curly bracket. Okay, so there are two sets of curly brackets, and right now I'd like to do is to change the flex again to 1, and then flex direction to bold. Okay, and then perhaps we can change a little bit of background color. Now, when it comes to style properties with two words, again, first word start with the lowercase, and then second word you want to capitalize, right? Because we don't want to use hyphenation. So you can say, okay, let's try the color green. So if we go back, we're going to see this layout. Let me just try one more thing, which is I have this flex direction. Let's also try a couple of things. Justify content, okay? And let's try space between, okay? So this is going to change the justification and distribution of the content. So again, the style is not the issue. I think I was trying to fill out the space, but it looks like at this moment something was not. But the style does apply to the button. Okay, so that was not the issue. And then let's also try a couple of things, okay, which is the font size and color and things like that. So for the button, right, or for the text message, right? So say let's create kind of a heading, okay, reference for a special design, and I'm going to change the font weight to quote, and then font size to 20. Let's give it a try. And then once I have done that, let's assign this to this speaker so that you can see everything. So you change the heading with the font weight and size, and then we can assign the style equal to, and again, styles heading. And that is going to increase the weight of the font and the font size. Of course, you can certainly try different sizes to decide which one is good for your application. Right? So play with it just to figure out. And one more thing I would like to do is for the view, right, that include both the text and the button. So we can also use the flex design and make the flex 1 and then flex direction for column. So column, and then we can align items to center. Double check whether this is going to center the welcome message. Right? If you want to make this front and center, those are some of the tools that you can use. I leave this here. Okay. So what else? I want to just try one more thing. Okay. Which is like yes, for the button we do want people to click and then or to respond, right? So let's just try a simple piece of code to show some kind of alert and also register a message to the console, okay? To make sure that we can actually trigger to handle the on-press event for the button. Okay. So I'm going to create enter underscore on-press on button press. Okay, so this is a function definition to handle the event. Okay, and we're going to say okay, console and then alert. Okay, make sure you import the alert component from React Native, and then we're going to show a message saying that you okay, hopefully this will work. So the notion of making the console.log in there so that we can make sure that this is indeed triggered if we can see a message in the terminal. Okay. And in case the alert doesn't show, at least we know that whether that piece of code is executed or not. Right? And then within the button, we can then register this for the on press. Okay. So button on press equal to. And because this is in the component view, okay, we can simply use this syntax. Okay. So on button press. Okay. So it's registered. That's going to show this so that we can see the terminal. Now, if I press it, it does show the alert, and then you also see the console log here. Okay. The message. So, I mean, when you are juggling with interface and code together, sometimes you don't know whether it's the interface issue or the background code issue. So, console log will allow you to at least a basic mechanism to keep track where you are, okay, whether your code is even executed and where it stops. That's what I gathered to see if we can create a basic skeleton of a message app or chat app. And you can imagine this is not just for chat, but you can also think about if you are creating a language model and you want to have a conversational engine, right? So the interface can also be coupled with ChatGPT or that or other language models for that for your applications. So let's see. Let's go to this, and then so I probably create a new app. Okay. Just make sure we start from scratch. And, so right now we are inside the directory. I'm going to cd out. Okay. And then again, there's our friend, the npx, create expo app. I'm going to call it with chat2 because I already have a chat. Okay. And then just let it create this app. And I probably will erase this again because every time I switch app, somehow it's not letting me. So web data, and then restart the emulator, just to make sure everything is clean from scratch before I run this app. So as part of this exercise, what I hope to do is also to follow a simple component design, right? So think about when you have an app here, there are certain reusable components, like for each text message, there's a text message block, right, that you can potentially reuse and reuse. In the future, perhaps there's a sender block, there's a receiver message block. But for now, let's just say there's a message block. And so then perhaps there's a picture of it, right, of that, the icon of the message or the sender's name and picture and then the message. So, that's what I imagine we're going to have. So the first thing we are going to have is going to be that block, and then we're going to plug in the block into a list and have a list of messages when we send once. Okay, so right now we have that app created. So the CD into the week 3 chat 2. Okay. Then again, emulator. Let me start it. Start the emulator. Back, let's run it. npx expo start. Once we are in that directory, again, I want to make sure I am in that directory. So week 3 chat 2. npx expo start the app. And now I'm actually going to close everything else just to make sure we have a clean screen. And I'm going into week 3 chat 2 app.js. So this is not running, so let me press A to run it. And again, in the install expo go. I think while it was working on here, so at least it should show us the interface. Okay, so it's working. Now I would like to change the code for our chat app. So I want to add a couple of things. This is status bar, which I just keep it there. But I'm going to also import React. And then because also we want to think about this, when we set a new text message, we are adding a text message to the list. So we need to update the state. And the state will update the database, right? So we need to use state. So make sure you also import use capital state from React. Okay. That should be part of it. And then let's see, for the components that we want to import, style sheet, text, view, I think there are a couple of others. I believe we need text input, right, for that text box. And then view is already there. Perhaps an image that will show an image of something. Okay. And then there should be a button. And I think in the end we probably use scroll view, right? So that we can scroll down on the list. So I believe these are what we need from React Native. Okay. Now, there's some basic skeleton of the code, but right now, okay, besides the app, I would also like to create the basic component of the message block, right? So, so let's do it. So I'm going to create, and we can call it message, right? And I think in the end we're going to be able to assign some properties, okay, to that message. So props, and this blueprint. Okay, so we're going to create a blueprint or the component for the message. And there are a couple of things we need to have, right? So there are some states that we need to update. So first is the state of the text message, right? The content of the text message we are entering. And so there should be const, and we can call it text, right? And then there's also set text, okay, equal to use state. Now, the default is make it just an empty string. And again, I want to make this really clear. Okay, when you use state and the const here, okay, these are not variables, these are functions. Okay, and these are getter and setter functions, right, to retrieve the value from that state, also to set the value. Okay, just remember these are not variables, but instead functions that you can call. And then of course, this is one message at the end. When this message is sent, it should be appended, right, to the list of messages. So we need another state variable, right, to keep track of texts. Okay, so I'm going to just call them in the form of a plural, right, and set again use state. And for now, just for the sake of testing purposes, let's put a couple of things in there. So initially we'll be able to see something, right? So the simple message is such as Roger. Okay. So instead of an empty list, I would prefer to have something in there. Of course, when you deploy, and this becomes a real application, you should remove these. But these values will be good for initial testing. Right? So these are the states we need to control, right? Update. And now let's start with the component. And here we're going to start with the view. Okay. So actually, I would like to start with the scroll view. Okay. Let's use the scroll view because we do want things to scroll. And let me just double check the reference so that I have things that I can use. So for now, wait, I'm sorry. Again, I'm done my best. I'm creating the message block, so this is not true. So again, this is simply just a view for each message. We don't need scroll view. Okay. Sorry about that. So in this case, a second. So I changed my mind. Okay. So bear with me. Let's call it message list. Okay. Because there's a message list, and then there is the individual component of a message. Okay. And also, right, okay. And then let's also create the message component. Okay. So message. And then for the message component, I don't think we need anything. We do. So for the message list, we don't need the properties. So I'm going to make it empty. But for the message component, we do need the properties. Yeah. Okay, now I'm getting it. So for each message, right, what you will need is, right now we don't have, I don't think we need any state, okay? So we just can simply go to the return to render the view, okay? So in the return, what I'm going to return is a view, right, with the message in it. Right? So that's for now, keep it simple. And within the view, we're going to have an image, right? Image for the icon. And so there's an image, and then let me just make this in before I just put all of this image, and then there should be a text component, right? So the text is simply to show the message itself. And then the third one, is there a third one? Should there be a button? I don't think they require a button. Let's just keep it simple, right? So an image and the text message, and that's it for now. Now, in the text message, depending on the props, right? Because the props can be the message text itself. So we can do something like props text. Okay. So which should be the text message attached as part of this message component. And then for the image, I believe earlier I have an image, but actually just for everyone without having to download anything. Let's see. Shall we use this one? The icon? Okay, let's just use this one. And I'm going to just make a separate directory for img under this. And I'm going to copy the icon. Okay, just have the images in the under the img directory. And what I'm going to do is to, of course, point to the source, right? So source equal to, right? And this should be required, and then dot slash img slash the counter png. For now, we perhaps can assign some style, okay, so that we see it. Go to style, and then again, double curly brackets with, let's say, 20, I20 will adjust it, okay, but for now, let's make it 20 to see if it works. Right? So we have that image and the text, right? And so for now, let's see if we can put everything together, okay, and show it. Because so now in the message list, let's put this message as one block. Okay, so we are going to include a message. Okay, and because we are going to use the text property there, so supposedly we should use text equal to, and then first message, something like that. Okay, I believe this will show up as part of, and then of course we can include one more just to make sure that it's going to work. Second message, and then this message should also be part of the. Right now, I'm going to just comment out the app, this portion of the app, because I do want to focus on the message list. So I include message list because there's no property, so this should be fine. Now, if I don't see any error here, open app. Not working. Message list. Try it again. Press A too low. Hopefully. Okay. So at least it shows the first message and second message in there. Okay, we have, I mean, the basic mechanism is working. Right? Of course, the style is not good and we don't have real data yet, but we are going to. Okay, so we have that working. Let's come back. Now, here, I think in addition to the message list, we also need an input box and a button, right, in order to show the messages. Okay, so we can make this, let's see, wait. Because my state is part of it, so I do have to make it in here, okay, in the message list. Because I put the state in here. So, I mean, there is a design issue, but let's just go with this design. Okay, so so let's add a couple of things, and of course add another view inside a view. Right, so this is one view, and in this view we are going to include two things. One is the input box, right? Input text, right? And so the input text, there are a couple of things. Let's put a placeholder. Okay, placeholder is just going to show a hint of what, enter your message here, something like that, right? And I think for now, default value, okay, default value will be simply text, okay, and this is a reference, right, again to the state variable, to the scatter, and it will be updated by the state. And so the idea is that when we hit the send button, right, this will be appended to the list, and then the state of the text will be empty. So when you change the text state, that box, the value will also hopefully get changed. Okay? So that's the idea. And let's see. So that is input text, and now let's also add a button. Okay, button, and the title equal to, this is really the same button. Now I do want to include on press. Okay, and we're going to finish this piece of code later, but let's just set up the skeleton. Right? So within this block, on press equal to this block, this is going to be the handler for the event. So we don't need the event variables. Simply just empty parentheses point to a piece of code to handle that event. So we can actually put these two together. Okay. So that is going to be our code that to handle that event. Now, let's view it. So we make that change again on the terminal. Press A. So hopefully that will reload. Let's try again. A. Do anything wrong? But then view messages. That's fine. Is yours loading?
There is text input, I guess.
Which one?
Input text.
Input text.
The text input.
Input text.
We import a text input.
I think it should be.
It should be text input.
Oh, okay. Text input. Right, okay. Thank you. Text input indeed. Okay, very good. Okay, press A, reload. So here we doesn't look very nice, but we can type, right? Yeah, we can type. So, but of course, nothing is working just yet, right? So let's hopefully make it work. Now, first let's apply some styles, and so hopefully we can let's just like to change style. Yeah, let's change the style a little bit. Okay. So the first thing is that for the button, right? Actually this is not that bad. We can change the style later. Let's finish the functionality and then worry about that. So when we press the button, right? What do you think should happen? When we enter text data, press the button. What do you think should happen? Send it, right? So we should send it, and because it's a React framework, and by sending it, we should update certain states. Right? Basically, update data, and data should be reflected on the interface. So there are two parts we need to implement. One is that we need to think about where the data is, and then how to render the data. So first thing is like, oh, the data is really here, right? The text, right? So multiple text should be there, and this message list should really reflect, because we hard code them here. This is not right. We should actually use whatever data in here, right, to render it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is to comment, or maybe leave them there. But what I am going to do is to say that I want to get access the text, right, and then map to the list of components. So this map function. So again, the text here is from the state, right, from the data. And then there's a map function, okay, which basically is going to map a list of things to a certain interface. Okay, so with this map, right, so you create a map, and inside this map, I'm just going to do some space to clarify the syntax. Okay, so the first part is going to a pair of parentheses, and then again point to a specific mapping. Okay, so now inside the first set of parentheses is really the parameters, and then point two is basically what the return should be. Okay, this is the return. So the first is the parameter. There are two parameters that should be there. One is of course the data, right, in each element of the list, and then the second is the key or the index. Okay, so and then in the return, you want to return for each key and data for text. You want to return the component. Sorry, and so the component is really the message, right? So the message is the component. So let's put the message in this return, right? The message. Then close it for now, and then but we need to see what this is. Okay, so what we are going to do is that for this component, the key will be the index, right? And then the value, which is actually, remember we use this text, right? So we should continue to use that text equal to, and then because the next one is the actual variable from the mapping, right? So we need to say this is the text. This is making sense. Okay. So with that, let's press A again to open it. And so in addition to the first message and second message, it's Roger and Roger back, right? So because these two messages are already part of the initial values in here in the state. Okay, so hope this makes sense. Now we know that the component, the rendering of the component is really based on the state variable. Now we can implement our set function as long as we change the state, right? We set the state, that interface will be reflected, right? So, so the next thing is that we want to implement this send button, right? Button that will equal to send or request. So what I'm going to do is that, so what do you think this should happen? When you click send, in order for the message to appear, right, on the interface, what are you going to do? The basic idea.
We add it to text.
Right, add it to text, right? So we need to call the setter, right? Text. And then, now, I don't really like the syntax, but this is the way that you have to work with, okay? Usually, like in the JavaScript or any programming language, when you try to append something, there's a append function just add to the bottom, that's it. But in order for this state to trigger, you have to follow the syntax of expand the existing text and then add the last piece of text, okay, to the end. Okay, so this is the way you append. Now, there's just one problem, because if you do this, I don't think it's going to work, because for now, we also need to make sure that the text, the other getter, this is actually the getter from the other state variable, right? To keep track of the current text, we have to make sure that this will receive data from the text input, right? Which is not there yet. So let's also update the text input here. Okay, I'm going to just add one more thing to the text input, which is whenever there is change, so on change text, right, equal to what is going to happen, right? So suppose the parameter is the new text, okay? So this is the data from the new text, and we are going to return or call this setter to set the new text. Okay? So this will make sure whenever you start to type, okay, the text, okay, the state will be in sync with the value in the text box. Okay, and so whenever you hit the send button, okay, because the text state is already in sync with the box, and so in the end, the text that will be added to the list will be what you have in the box, right? So hopefully this all makes sense. So let's go back here, and I want to make sure press HS to make sure it's open, the latest version. And so what I'm going to do is just to say hello from the box. Okay, and then click send. So it goes there. Okay. So I think this is the basic skeleton of the text messages. Of course, right now the style is kind of off. So let's change the style a little bit. Let's see if we can make it better. First of all, I'd like the icon and the message to be on one line, right? So what I would like to do is to create some style, right? So for the message, let's create a message container, right, to host the styles. So what I'm going to do is to add a container here for message container. Okay, and I think let's use flex design, so flex 1, and let's apply some background color, okay, so that we can see it more clearly. We are also going to use the And just for testing purpose, let's just use a color name. Okay, so quickly pick the color. And we are going to align, let's see. I mean, there is the justify content, there's an alignment. Let's try it. I'm going to try the align items, center. And I think I also need to change the flex direction, leave, right? Flex direction, and then change it to raw, right? Because we want to align horizontally. And align items. There's a justify content, there's align items. Sometimes we can definitely, let's see. Yeah, I think we don't use this center. I think the line item should be let's start. Okay, start from the left to right, and then justify content probably doesn't matter. Okay, let's give it center. We'll take a look. If not right, we can change it and play with it. And then let's assign that to the message, to the, no, sorry, this is not the message container. This is the message container. So let's assign to the view then. I think so. Okay, so let's assign it to the view, so styles equal to, and then curly brackets, and then put square brackets inside, and then styles dot message container. Hopefully this works. Okay, we come back. So it does give us the list. Okay, and it's aligned the icon and the text in one line. Perhaps I would like to increase their space. So I'd like to add some margin. Okay, so I just want to try some different techniques. And the first one is that, okay, for the between the image and the text, perhaps I can add a little bit of margin. Okay, that margin maybe 5 to see how it's going to show. Yeah, so there is a little margin to increase the space between the image and the text. Okay, so there's one. And then, but of course, right now, let me try one thing. I do want to say that justify content. Also, let's give it a try now. It's going to align to the left, right? And then I'll just quickly change a few things. Now, in the view, I can add some styles. Okay. So the first style is again flex direction. This is still column, so we don't have to change that. Style of container. Let's also make this. So I'm going to also not center it, but from the start. Let's try it. Okay. So we can align to that side. Right. So for now, and let's see. In terms of functionality, I think this is really just an exercise for us to, combine a couple of things in this exercise, right? To be able to create a number of things And we start with the basic component. Right? See, I think React has some of the recognized this component based. Right? So if you want to be able to reuse those components, you have to think about how you can break down the interface into reusable parts and then try to maximize the benefit of components. Right? So one way to do it is like, okay, each message is above. And so create a component and reuse it over and over again. Associate that with data. Right? And then in this, of course, it's also an exercise of changing states. Right? So because everything is binding. And so as soon as you change the state, update the state, right? Again, whenever you change state, you have to use the getter and the setter, right? So the second item, right, in the use state assignment is the setter, okay? So you use the setter to set text. That will basically just update the data. So if it's just one, single, it's just one value, you can update using the set text. But when you have a list of things, the plural set texts, right? When it's an array, right? The way to update array, this is the way to do it.